Last week we told you how VR Chat has dropped its alpha of its mobile version, and guess what? Meta Horizon Worlds, basically Meta's own version of VR Chat or Rec Room, is now out in closed beta of its Horizon Worlds on smartphones. We see footage here already of what this looks like, and I've got to say, surprisingly, I feel like I'm more interested in this on mobile than I am in VR. We knew that this was coming later on, and apparently it had been delayed a bit because they found that they were going too much on the VR side trying to put on mobile, and they needed to make it more of a mobile native experience first. We see footage captured from someone in the closed beta who got it on a Pixel phone, but we know that this is also supposedly coming to a PC version as well. They're really trying to open up the world of Horizon to as many platforms as possible. The question being, will that get anyone else into it? I know there's some groups, especially of older adults, who really love Horizon Worlds because they can avoid the younger crowds they see in the other games, but how many of you out there have played Horizon Worlds or play it regularly? I'd love to know. Richie's playing experience has long been a favorite of VR gamers, especially putting their new friends into VR and seeing what kind of horrible accidents they can have. Now the developers have shown us their next project, Max Mustard, a 3D platformer built for VR. Of course, as Gamescom is going on in Europe, we're seeing a bunch of new titles announced and released from different companies. People are actually getting to try out Max Mustard in person there. The trailer here is reminiscent of games like Moss or Astrobot Rescue Mission, where not only are you controlling a character in third person, but you are actually in the game as a character too. Whether you're helping them with a plunger gun we see here or other tools in throughout it, you are not just a passive spectator, but also a participant in the game. The description even says, you and the famous inventor Max Mustard embark on an adventure to reunite adorable mud pups with their parents. Along the way, you are faced with a surprise dilemma when a friend reveals a secret about who they are. They say the game has been in development for over 3 years now, with 40+ levels, 4 bosses, and about 4+ hours in length. This is definitely one to keep an eye on. I've been in love with a lot of the third-person games like this in VR, but also Richie's Plank developers have been around forever, and they do a great job making sure that their game makes it to other platforms and that people can enjoy VR. Hellsweeper VR is less than a month away from launching on Quest, PC, and PlayStation VR 2. Not only is this game from the developers of Arizona Sunshine Vertigo games, but this is going to be a co-opable game, and it's confirmed it'll even be crossplay. So no matter what headset your friend has, you'll be able to play this roguelike together. The action here looks exciting and brutal as you get to see a little taste of what the co-op is going to look like. In this game, you're going to be fighting rounds with different objectives, all ending with a final boss as you're trying to get loot, upgrade your character and weapons, or even your hellhound while it's happening. The game is slated to launch on September 21st, and it's up, of course, for pre-order on Steam, but wishlist on PSVR 2 and Quest. This is one I've been watching out for a while, especially as developers of Arizona Sunshine usually nail it pretty well when it comes to games, so I'm looking forward to this one. What about you? 11 Table Tennis has long been heralded as the best VR table tennis game, and now they've dropped a new game, which is a beer pong game. For now, this is only out on Quest and Pico headsets for $10, but this has 1v1, 2v2, and even 1v2 matches. Bounce Shot is the name of the game, and it might be a fun way for those who are into beer pong but friends are far away. Maybe you can play it and simultaneously have a real life setup that you're also playing with. With this having just came out, it's only got 14 ratings so far on the Quest Store, but about a 4.8 star rating, and every single rating is either 4 or 5 stars. Now, Bounce Shot, of course, calls itself a family-friendly version of the popular college game, never quite mentioning that it is beer pong. But something like this seems like a good fit for VR, with people saying that it's a fun party game, that it already has its hooks in them. But people bringing up, of course, the age-old VR problem. It's hard to figure out exactly how to correctly throw something in VR, and they say the bounce shots are much easier. If you've tried it, let me know how you feel about the throwing mechanic in it, because that seems to be the hardest thing to nail in any VR game. There was a game that launched on PC on Steam back in 2019 called Islanders. This advertised itself as a minimalist city builder and currently has over 14,000 reviews with a score of very positive. Now next month, the team behind this game is launching Islanders VR Edition. This is all about building cities on these different islands. There's been a big demand in VR for city building games like City Skyline and other ones, and to see another one come to this from a company that knows what they're doing has me really excited. Although, as we've seen before, sometimes VR studios and flat game studios don't always cross over super well. Luckily, this is being published by CodeSync, which is known for VR games like Jurassic World Aftermath and the Esper series, so hopefully they've lended some support here in creating a game that will be great for VR. If you're interested in this, you can get 10% off if you pre-order it on Quest before it comes out on September 28th. It seems like September's racking up to have some good games in it. No Man's Sky finally got an update on PSVR 2 that has enabled foveated rendering. For those of you who haven't hung out on the channel enough, foveated rendering is where when you have eye tracking, wherever your eyes look, the headset senses that and makes the best possible graphic fidelity right where you're looking, allowing it to save processing power by having lower graphical resolution all around in your peripheral vision. Now, I was excited to hear this was coming to PSVR 2 because when I first tried No Man's Sky on PSVR 2 just to see what the PSVR 2 was capable of, it looked good, but it still looked blurrier than I felt like it should have. This update had come out, but I had not updated the game yet, so I spent some time on the PSVR 2 testing out No Man's Sky. Then I went back, updated it, went back in, and it was a huge difference. It looks to me as good or better than when I played this even on PCVR. One thing about the foveated rendering on this that I hadn't been able to catch in other games is I can actually catch it happening. If you look out in the distance at a big rocky mountain and then you swap your eyes between the next mountain back and forth, you can kind of catch in your peripheral vision how one mountain is getting much less resolution and looking a lot worse, but overall it's an effect that really makes the game look better and feels like how it should have looked all along on the PSVR 2. There's of course a lot of other features coming out in this Echoes update, whether you're playing No Man's Sky flat or in VR, but this definitely has me wanting to get back in and play it a lot more now because it looks really good. Some of the close-up textures and things like that aren't going to get a lot better, so if you're looking at a rock that's right next to you on the ground and you bend down close to it, it's still going to look a little rough. It is VR. It's never going to look quite like flat PS5 or PC, but it looks like it should to me. Vertigo 2 made quite a splash when it launched on PC and is acclaimed as one of the best PC VR games in years. Now we've got an announcement that it is officially coming over to PlayStation VR 2 in October of this year. Sadly, of course, no Quest announcements yet, although this would probably require the power of the Quest 3 or maybe even just PC Link because this game is very intense graphically. One of the really impressive things about this game is this was made by a solo developer and yet it is known as an amazing game. If you've got the PSVR 2, watch out for this in October, or if you've been on the fence about it, it might be time to get that PSVR 2 if this comes out and looks as good as it did on PC. Sadly, not everything in the PSVR 2 world is all peaches and rainbows. Firewall Ultra, a highly anticipated game, the sequel to Firewall 0 Hour, which was known as probably the best first-person shooter, but maybe one of the only multiplayer first-person shooters on the PSVR. Firewall Ultra is finally out, and it's to some lukewarm or even not very happy reviews. People have been very disappointed. Although you have two controllers in your hands, the reloading is a single button, the gameplay is feeling slow, and people are saying that it's really the shooting is the problem. And especially because this game, compared to the most popular shooter now on PSVR 2, Pavlov, feels completely different. Other specific details that people are calling out: how grenades, you have to push a button and aim an arc instead of actually throwing them. You click a trigger to pull the gun up and aim down the sights. That way it's not actual manual aiming. And a lot of little details like this have people just feeling like this was not really a VR design game, or because First Contact Entertainment's first game was built around something like the PSVR aim controller, they just did not nail what we're all used to now, playing shooters with two different controllers in hand. Over on First Contact Entertainment's Twitter, they said that they are taking all this feedback and they're going to work to fix all of this. So this might be yet another game that comes out at launch and you got to wait for some updates for it to be the game you were hoping it was all along. That seems to be a trend in the entire gaming industry. As games can update more and more after the fact, we see more of them coming out at launch not quite as ready as what we expect, but over the years, like we mentioned No Man's Sky, some games can turn into something much better than what they started as. With all of that said, what games are you looking forward to? What systems are you looking forward to? We're obviously on the cusp of the Quest 3 launching and hopefully more exciting titles there, but it seems like the gaming side of news has been a little bit better lately, a little bit more fruitful, which I'm excited about. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in another reality.